Hello, this meeting will come to order. Juanita, will you call the roll?
Juliette Boyd.
Present.
Randy Brockway.
Here.
Rachel Morello.
Here.
Michael O'Brien.
Here.
Arthur Perry.
Present.
Rich Regan.
Present.
Mary Rose Mandia.
Here. Let's all stand and let's pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just before we commence our meeting, I would like to recognize our outgoing board members, and we have some small tokens of our appreciation for them. Michael?
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Art?
Thank you.
And Julia? Anyway, I want, on behalf of the board and on behalf of the community, thank you all for your service. And can I recognize you to say a few words?
Sure. I'll say that it's been an honor to serve the District 96 community for the past 4 years. I am very proud of the accomplishments of our students and our staff and administration, our parents, and this board. I think we've done a lot of hard work, and I think it's shown. And I thank you for, all of the commitment across the board. Thanks.
Well, I appreciate the support of the community from 4 years ago, sweating it out on election night to see if I was going to get in. It seems like many moons ago, so I appreciate everyone's support and input throughout the 4 years, and I'll miss talking to parents about education and what they feel should be done, but also the kids and their opinions too. I will miss the board a lot, but I'm happy to have Tuesday nights free, and I look forward to it. So thank you very much.
I was appointed and have enjoyed my time, and I think that I really value all of those people out there that have volunteered and have appreciated my chance to be able to contribute something. And so I wish you all well, and because now I have a good idea of how much work's involved. And so good luck with everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Why don't we invite everybody to partake of the refreshments for a few minutes? That's why they're here. They are here to recognize our board members. So why don't we do that right now? Thank you. That's for everybody. All right, we're going to begin the business portion of our meeting with public comment. So if everybody can be seated. Let me go get some water here. Somebody get me some water. And then I can...
Do you want one?
I just can't have a meeting. All right, first person I'd like to recognize for public comment would be Ben Arriaga. Am I saying that correctly?
You did. Hello.
Hi.
My name is Benjamin Arriaga. I'm part of the YMCA. I've been working with them for 3 years. I'm here with my coworkers today. Sorry, I have my phone on. It just helps me with my notes. The reason why I came to speak today is because obviously, as you guys know, there's a proposal with the whole RAC doing aftercare with us that we do aftercare now. Our biggest concern right now is obviously the kids. We have worked with these kids numerously through the years, whether they're at, they go from Hollywood and the Hauser
and vice versa with Central going to Hauser in the transition of junior high. I personally have had the experience to work with one special child. His name is Patrick. I have grown to adore. He is a child that when he smiles, you have nothing else to do but smile with him. No matter how my day is, no matter what kind of week it is, he just has that effect on me and on others. He is special. He has autism. We have learned with him as he has learned with the whole adapting to others and to the situations. We have adapted with him. I can tell you, I've learned through these years so much about Burlington Northern Santa Fe trains that I've never known about. I've seen paths they take that I would have never guessed. But he is one child that, as I said, has autism. It is very difficult for him to get into new situations. And not saying that he can't do it. It is just one of those things where it takes him a little more effort to do. And at the Y, we have known, and these are my coworkers, we have met him and his family. We work close with his family too, whether it's through morning care and aftercare, whether it's through one of our school out days that we have through the different vacations of the classes, or whether it's even through summer camp. That's just one of our children. Yes. We also have another one. His name is Jake. I know his parents spoke last meeting. Jake is another gifted boy. He's amazing when it comes to athletics. When he puts his mind to his work, he can get it done. He needs that little push. He has an AEP through school, and I've spoken through with some of his teachers, and his teachers have spoken to me with concerns that he has. And this is just another example of just one of the other children we work with that needs that extra little attention that we do give him from the years that we've grown with him. Now we have his brother in our program, which is just a continuously family thing that we do. We speak to his father, we speak to his mother on a daily basis, whether it's how his behavior is in school, whether it's activities doing, or whether it's a negative thing. And maybe he acted out that day. And every kid has a bad day. It's natural, we all have bad days. No big thing. Our biggest concern is putting these kids into a new environment that they're not ready for, they're not prepared for. And like I said before, I have faith in these kids that they could do it. Nothing about that. But we've made and established these relationships with these kids through these years with parents and their kids and the family. This isn't just a kid that I work with every day. I know his mom and dad on a first name basis. I know him. I know how his family is. I know when they go on vacation. He tells me everything about it. I know his dad's favorite football team is the Dallas Cowboys. Why, I don't know. But it is. Anyways, these are the things that we establish with these kids, with these parents. And it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop. We've established relationships with whether it's custodial staff at the school, whether it's teachers, whether it's administrative, but they know us. They know us by name. They know us by sight, things of that sort. This isn't just a simple 3 to 6 job. 6 o'clock, I punch out, I'm out of here. I don't know who you guys are anymore. We put countless hours into prepping our lessons plans for these kids, whether it's activities we play, whether it's the games we set up, whether we make up new games just for them based on a new movie that's out. We play Hunger Games at Ames. I got introduced to it. I think it's a fabulous game. It's a weird game, but it's a fabulous game. This is just a thing that shows what makes us stand out to everyone else. And as I was reading your mission statement, it says, the mission of the Riverside Public Schools is to provide for each student a challenging education which promotes academic excellence, encourages creativity, develops critical thinking, and fosters respect for self, community, and the environment. I couldn't say, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, sorry. That's what we do. Whether we have someone's specialties is dramatics or singing, or we have art, things of that sort. That's what we do, and that's what we provide to these kids. We have so much faith in our program and in our facilities that we actually have a program where we give back some of our paycheck to them. Whether it's $1, whether it's $5, the amount doesn't matter. It's just that shows how much faith we have with these kids. And like I said, this isn't a 3 to 6 job. Our 6 o'clock, our minds don't turn off and say, I'll worry about tomorrow. No, we continue. Whether we're on Pinterest, we're looking up things on social media, trying to get these kids. We want them to get engaged with all the activities we do. Whether it's making them go out of their bubble because they want to talk to someone that maybe they wouldn't talk to in school because they're younger or older, or maybe they just don't like them. These are things that we make these kids do. We make them see the potential that other kids have, whether it comes to sports, things of that sort. So,
Right, Ben, can I ask
Yes.
you to please wrap it up? Because we have time limits.
yeah, it's 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. And so this is the things that, we're passionate about. That's why we're here, and that's why we were here at the last meeting. We would have been here the previous meeting if we would have known. But these are the things that makes us feel like we deserve to be in your schools. That's what we are requesting, because we want to be in your schools. This is our passion, is working with these kids. Most of these people here we do these things not because it's something to do or because we get paid, it's because we want to do it.
All right, thank you, Ben.
Mhm.
Next, Desi Mendez and Sonia Ramos.
Hi, I'm Desi Mendez. I've been with the YMCA for about 2 years now. And one of the things that I wanted to address is how much the children really love our program. We have activities for the children. They go to the library. We play Just Dance with them.
We go outside when it's nice out. Now that the weather's getting nicer, we do go outside. We are in the gym. We do crafts. We do everything that pretty much they would like us to do. Also, the kids are.
The children just love our program so much that they actually cry. They don't want to go home. That's how much they love our program. They literally beg and cry their parents so they don't go home. And we even asked a student today, how would they feel if they went to another program as opposed to ours? And these are his exact words.
Why? I would care because I won't get to see the same counselors and my same friends, and also because of all the snack that is provided.
Thank you.
Also, sorry.
Go ahead.
Also, we do get feedback from the children without even asking. For example, the other day, a child in our program, she made cards for us, Sonia and I, and she gave them to us, and she said, "You guys are the best counselors ever." She goes, "I really love you too."
Thank you.
I'm Yesenia. I was the one that was going to speak next, but they basically covered everything that I was going to say, and I didn't want to just repeat everything. But like we did say, we are a big family. We care about these children so much, and it's heartbreaking to know that, a new program is coming in. But
Yesenia, thank you very much. David Barsati. Hi, David.
My name is David Barsati. I'm here tonight to speak to you about two topics. The first topic is regarding staffing of the technology department. The district is spending, in my opinion, too much money on consultants on needs that are continually ongoing. The main purpose of a consultant is to fulfill a temporary need. Temporary, the emphasis is on temporary. The district is looking to roll out a one-to-one device program for students, looking to better manage the software district-wide, deployed district-wide, and the district needs to better manage the computers in-house. Then you have Park, and the list can go on and on and on. You need to hire additional staff in your technology department to handle the technology demand that is coming. This demand is not going to go away, and it's going to increase over the years. The district needs to plan for this increase, for this increase in demand, and hire additional permanent staff. The second reason I'm here to talk to you tonight is in regards to the one-to-one program. Tonight you will be considering whether or not to deploy Mac Chromebooks, iPads, or Chromebooks. In my opinion, there are issues with all these platforms. If it was up to me, I would put MacBooks on the table, but I've taken Chromebooks and the iPads off. Okay, but that's not my decision. It's the board's decision. So that's what we're dealing with tonight. And in my opinion, it doesn't matter if it's an Apple, if it's a Dell, if it's Google, if it's HP. What matters is if the product fulfills the goals outlined by the board. The three goals that I feel that the board is looking at, and that are of critical importance, is does it meet the curriculum data assessments of the district? And the iPad scores poorly on a number of curriculum and data assessment needs for the district. But I know that the district seems to favor the user experience of Apple. I tend to believe, based on my experience, is that people favor what they are comfortable with, and Apple is deployed throughout the district. Unfortunately, Apple is not designed for an enterprise setting, but I'll speak to that more in a moment. The district also needs to focus on the cost of the equipment. The Chromebook is far less expensive than the MacBook or the iPad, both in upfront cost and in annual maintenance, significantly less. And on that reason alone, I mean, that's a done deal. You guys should be considering the Chromebook. Okay. The clincher, though, for me, is the management and maintenance of the computer. That is where Apple, both the MacBook and the iPad, fail. Apple products, as I mentioned earlier, are not well suited for enterprise development, deployments. It is important to the district that they have a platform that can be effectively managed in an enterprise setting. Apple does not allow their products to be effectively managed. There are known security issues, backdoors that Apple has put in place that can actually get beyond firewalls, okay? Now, I'm not saying that other computers don't have it, but I know from personal experience, there is that backdoor. Now, Apple might have signed, and all these other computers, and there's also talk up here of like who signed the student privacy pledge, okay? And I know Apple signed it, Google signed it, a lot of companies signed it. But there is no teeth to that pledge. That pledge is basically just a document that looks good PR, but it's only a matter of time before it's broken. There's nothing to say that that's going to be enforced. So I don't even think that should be a consideration for this board. But in summary, Chrome for me, Chrome is more secure than Apple and it's easier to manage. Security is extremely important to me and it should be important to this district. It's also cheaper and it meets all the curriculum and data assessment needs of the district. These reasons alone should lead you to decide to select Chromebooks over other Apple products for the one-to-one program. And the benefit is, the money you save with that, you can then use to hire staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, Dave. Katie Leander?
Hi, I'm Katie Leander. I am a District 96 parent, and I'm also the chair of the Parks and Recreation Board of the Village of Riverside. And all of my board members are also District 96 parents. And we, the Parks and Rec Board, would like to take over the before and after care program for District 96. It is our mission to serve our community, and District 96 is part of our community, all of its members. Quite simply, we would like to improve the program. As you know, several years ago we took over the summer camp program from the PAV YMCA. And we have since more than doubled attendance, with many weeks of camp booking up months in advance, and many of our families returning year after year. All of this due to high parent satisfaction and high kid satisfaction. So, we would like to offer District 96 an improved before and after school care program, like we did with the summer camp program. And in addition to the support of our board, this also has the support of the village board. And finally, I'd like to let you know that we've heard your concerns. We are prepared and able to offer financial assistance. We would like to retain as many staff as appropriate and possible, because we're also interested in continuity as well. And we would like to assure you that the cost of the program will not go up. So let's improve the program and keep it local. Thanks.
Thank you, Katie. Next, Mary Judy.
Hi there, I'm Mary Lang Judy. I live on Northwood, and I'm speaking to you this evening as a member of RAIN, the parent of a special needs high school student with many years of experience managing an IEP to assist in my child accessing a free and appropriate public education as provided for with IDEA, and as a consultant to the Illinois State Board of Education in the area of special education. At the Finance Committee meeting on April 8th, this board heard an employment requisition from the Director of Special Services, Mrs. Shaw, for an autism behavioral support specialist. The original schedule for tonight's meeting included voting on that request. Upon hearing that request and reviewing Mrs. Shaw's presentation, my fellow parents, Mary Comparita, Janine Glavis, and I drafted a letter to the board asking for more information regarding the specifics motivating the request, the current educational climate in our schools related to the board's mission, the impact on current programs and contracts with external service providers such as LADSI, and providing recommendations to consider for staffing alternatives. Additionally, we were interested in the parental input that was provided to assist in the decision-making process. Like other public schools across America, District 96 receives Title I funding. Title I refers to the Section 1118, Title I of No Child Left Behind Act. More specifically, Section 1118 requires that every school district and every school receiving Title I dollars must have a written parent involvement policy as well as build school capacity to effectively implement the parent policy provisions. This policy must be developed jointly with, approved by, and distributed to parents of participating children and the local community. It must ensure that strong plans for parental involvement are in place at every Title I school and should be designed to encourage and sustain active parental involvement. The ISBE interprets this to mean, quote, that parents are full partners in their child's education and are included as appropriate in decision-making and on advisory committees to assist in the education of their child, unquote. A search of the District 96 website did not reveal such a policy, but if you could alert us to that provision, we would much appreciate seeing that. Now, several parents volunteered for a special services committee that the board voted to establish in the fall of 2013. 5 members were contacted on January 14, 2014 by Dr. Gannon and were appointed to the committee. One meeting was held with then interim co-director of special education, Peggy King, in the spring of 2014. No other meetings were scheduled. I inquired at future board meetings throughout 2014 as to the status of the committee and was informed that it was no longer meeting. It would seem that the staffing request that Mrs. Shaw is making now would be an appropriate place to utilize the stakeholder input of willing parents. There's a greater question on the minds of stakeholders in this district that this particular request begs an answer. What is District 96's vision for special education in our schools, and what is the plan to achieve that vision? Our vision as district parents, stakeholders, taxpayers is for truly inclusive schools. We parents view an inclusive environment as the fundamental mindset from which each student is seen as competent and valued. A pervasive attitude of presumed competence and acceptance of each student, rather than a negative focus on the disparate deficits, has proven to be a far more effective way of implementing all teaching methods. Looking at surrounding school districts, we see this mindset effectively employed to the success of the individual students and to their communities as a whole. We strongly encourage the board to focus your energies and policies to strive for such an environment in District 96. And we families are here to help you do that. I have an example of the letter that I sent to the board, if anyone's interested in seeing that again. It just so happened that today I was on a focus monitoring visit in CPS school. And it struck me that I was going to come and present, didn't realize it was such a large crowd, but that I was going to come and present this vision for my home district and for what I want to see. And I thought it was really interesting that one of the slides that I had to present, in 2 languages no less, talked about specifically what's most important to all families. And that is that we have to remember that all of our kids, and you can go ahead and pass those out to me, all of our kids are general education students. Every one of them. And every one of them has a right to be educated in their home schools. Right? They may be a general education student that has some disabilities that require some supports, But they are first and foremost members of this community, and they are general education students. And so we take that into consideration whenever you're looking at the policies regarding social services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Cindy Rote.
Hi, my name is Cindy Rote, and I'm fairly new to the area. I'm in the Hollywood, I live in the Hollywood area of Brookfield, and my daughter goes to the Hollywood School and is participating in the aftercare program right now through the PAV YMCA. And I would just like to say a few words about that to sort of sing their praises. I feel that they've been very accommodating to me as a parent in helping my daughter transition and become adjusted into the system. She's very young, and so transitioning is a big thing for her. She still often, when things are new and different, would rather be with mom. And so they've been very accommodating and asking me what types of things particularly that she likes, so they can be sure to bring books and puzzles, Frozen and Doc McStuffins and all the popular things, the girl things that are out there nowadays. I feel like because I'm so new and I've just heard of the District 96 Board of Education plan of removing their program, I was surprised to hear that. And from my experience, I sort of feel like if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And so I'm wondering what it is that the board is looking for and what they feel the Y is not providing. Now, the other person that spoke, I'm not familiar with, and I don't know what the recreation group has to offer, but I would wonder what it is that they can do differently or better than the Y. And is it worth changing from a group that's successfully provided before and after care for the past 6 years to all the families in the community? And what I've noticed is that they're very good at providing engaging materials for the children. Everything from giving them time to do their homework and quiet time to do coloring or puzzles or read books, or they can engage in group activities and play games, go outside when it's nice to the playground, or play sports like basketball and soccer. So I just don't see what's missing. And as I said, they've been very good about, all my phone calls and emails, trying to make sure that my daughter's adjusting okay and that she's not crying and that she's happy and she's having a very good time. So I thank you for your time, and I would just ask you to consider one last point, excuse me, since I didn't have anything prepared. I'm just sort of going off the cuff here. But as far as the other thing that's really nice about it is because it's right at the school. And so parents do not have to drive anywhere. And that's really a big benefit, because if I had to actually go and drive her somewhere else or have somebody else drive her, or even if the district had to pay for a bus, a driver, and the whole time commuting, there's all the expense. And there's a whole nother safety component when you're having to transport children. So for a convenience sake as well, it's nice to know that they're at the school and that the whole school structure is there, and a lot of the staff members at the school are present through part of the time, at least, if not all the time. So thanks again.
All right, thank you. Just to clarify, the proposed program from Parks and Recs will also be on the school locations. Thank you. Brian Serta.
Good evening.
Hi, Brian.
I live in Hollywood, and speaking in front of the board is coming to seem like a monthly chore for us. Hollywood seems to be kind of under attack a little bit. And I have a question in terms of two products. I'm looking at the board members, and I'm wondering how many of you actually have children in the aftercare program? One? You have a child? So if someone is going to then take away something from you without giving you an opportunity to see what you are purchasing, if this was a program that was free of charge or was coming out of our tax money or whatever, I could see then you making a decision on our behalf. But since I'm still going to be buying it, this product. I'd like to know what I'm buying or what's replacing it. So I suggest postponing your vote and have them submit proposals, resumes, references to the people who are purchasing this product, and then let us decide. I see young individuals here in the back who work very hard, and being a person in education, which I am, this is a very challenging job. It is a draining job when you have so many young people needing things, and you are that person at the circus spinning plates, hoping none of them fall. These young people back here deserve an opportunity to prove why they want this position, why they want their jobs. I just don't understand how you can just affect so many people, and the people that are being affected are the ones who, chances are, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here, are the most economically challenged. I come from a two-income household, and if I could make a wish on a star, we'd be a one-income household, and I wouldn't need the aftercare services that it provides. I'm grateful that it's there. I'm grateful I can afford it. The people who are there, who are in dire need of this service, people who are not, how can I say, the people who are not in need of this, I don't want to say something I'm going to regret later. There just seems to be some obvious choices to be made, and I would let the people who make these, who are paying for these choices, they're the ones who should be deciding. Con todo respeto a ustedes no. With all my respect, it shouldn't be you. It should be the parents who are deciding on what service they want for their children. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Letitia Gutierrez.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I am. I have two children who are in the aftercare program right now. They're at Hollywood School. I had a child here at Hauser. She's being homebound, taught at home. And I have two high school children at RB. We've lived in the district for about 4 years, going on 5, I believe. And unfortunately, like my husband has just said, we do come from a two-income household, so we both work. So we definitely have become dependent on the program. And we're very fortunate that we've been able to have such wonderful people work with our children. Being a school teacher myself, I do know that if the reason why we're replacing this program is to increase the rigor, is to increase academic scores, to provide more of an after-school program that's gonna, take our kids up to higher levels, I totally disagree with it. I'm a 7th and 8th grade teacher, and I've seen my students and my own children at home have become almost emotional wrecks with stress. I like the fact that I come and pick up my kids, and they're playing. They're playing, they're enjoying themselves, they're celebrating birthdays, something that sometimes in their own classrooms they are no longer allowed to do. They do get a little recognition. However, they're allowed to bring a cupcake. I think that's awesome. And I also like the fact that my kids they look at the people at the Y as people of color. I'll be honest with you. There was a boy there, I think Charles, he was there, and my son Damien, he was like, "Mom, I know a black boy." I go, "That's absolutely right. Is he nice?" "Yeah, he's nice." I like my kids to be able to say, "Hey, Mom, I can get along with people of color." Unfortunately, in the school district, I've had issues with that. I've had issues with that at RB. I've had a lot of bullying reports. You can ask anyone at RB, they know who I am. I've had a little bit of issues here at Hauser. But if that mission is truly, if you really want to stay with the mission and truly expose your kids to learning how to get along with the community, let's not isolate ourselves. Let's know that there's outside these Brookfield, outside these Riverside, there's a whole community of different colored people, and kids need to learn how to get along. And you start them at this level. You start them little so they can expose themselves, so they can say, yes, I know people, and I look at them as a mentor, not only as the person working, sweeping, and people working in the kitchens. So, I mean, honestly, that's my main reason. And I honestly think if there's something that's not broke, I agree with her. If it's not broke, why fix it? Another thing is someone was telling me about some survey that was given out. I personally never received it. If parents were given surveys, it wasn't really out there. So I do not know where this initiative came to switch programs. I do agree with going local. However, when local doesn't really bring about that exposure to the realities we have in our life, this Black Lives Matter, to me this is very significant. Watching the news, seeing this, and I have to turn it off all the time so my kids don't see this. But do I want them to be able to get along with people? Absolutely. And if you can tell me that you have an array of people of color working for you in Riverside, well then maybe I might listen to you. But right now I'm very happy with who my kids look up to, who their mentors are, personally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Bhavna, if you can talk to us about the recent FOIA requests.
Since our last board meeting, we've had some FOIA requests. They're available in your packet, the requests as well as responsive documents, and they're also available to the public. On March 17th, Mr. Skolnick requested all all Riverside Elementary School District 96 by Mr. and Mrs. Lineberry during the period of August 15th and up to and including October 15th. All FOIA requests. On March 18th, Mr. Bob Uphues from the Landmark newspaper requested a copy of the separation agreement between the Board of Education and Dr. Sharma Lewis. On April 1st, Mr. Skolnick requested copies of all emails sent on March 24th, 2015 by the president of the Riverside Elementary School Board, Mrs. Mary Rose Mangia, to any other board members on Riverside School District 96 Board of Education, including their personal emails. On April 6th, Mrs. Jennifer Lineberry submitted a FOIA request for the amount the district spent in 2014 fiscal year on legal services. And on April 13th, 2015, the district received another request from Mrs. Lineberry for a copy of the consultant's report provided to the Board of Education in the spring of 2012 that analyzed the district's administrative needs.
All right. Thank you. Bhavna, do we have any announcements?
From each of our schools, I'll start with Ames. Ames had their Culver's fundraiser night, and Ames family spent $2,216 in food purchases at the Student Council's Culver fundraiser on March 12th. The Ames Science Fair was held on March 25th, and it was a huge success. Ames students had the opportunity to participate in the world of science exploration. The Kona Ice Party. Ames students held their Kona Ice Party on Friday, April 10th for the classrooms that raised the most money at the school fun run held last fall. And congratulations to the following teachers and their students: Ms. Mandarino, Mrs. Samuels, Ms. Geiger, Ms. Orlowski, Ms. Burish, Ms. Munson, Mrs. Steffens, and Mrs. Duvey. Family Geography Night was held will be held, on April 23rd at Ames, and parents and teachers are planning a fun-filled evening for everyone to enjoy learning about the world around us. Blythe Park Pasta for Pennies program. The Student Council raised nearly $600 for cancer research by participating in the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's for Pasta for Pennies program. Celebrating Science. Blythe Park has been celebrating science during the month of April, and on April 17th, all children participated in Stephen Bellevue's Getting Excited About Science Assembly, and students learned about the principles of static electricity, air pressure, water pressure, sound, light, color, eyes, friction, pulleys, distribution of weight, conservation of energy, and inductive and deductive reasoning. Touch High Tech wrong one. Cardio Kids. Cardio Kids spring session begins on April 16th. Ms. Gorman, Mr. Bartelt, Ms. Ravensworth held a number of Blythe Park students and parents are starting to run on Thursday and Friday mornings, and all are welcome to join. Bike Safety Rodeo is back, and on April 22nd and April 24th, Officer Brian Greenwald from the Riverside Police Department will speak to the students about bike safety and the rules of the road for bicycles. At Central, during Screen-Free Week, children and adults are encouraged to spend an entire week unplugged by turning off their televisions, computers, and video game players, iPads, iPods, and other tablets and handheld devices for all recreational use. I want to know the results of that, Mr. Gatz, okay? Also at Central, and I'm going to include Hollywood in this because they both shared the same announcement, that for the West Suburban Consortium of Young Artists Show, students in grades kindergarten through 5th at Central and grades 2nd through 5th at Hollywood have been selected for certain pieces of an art show that will be held on Saturday, May 2nd at the Cheney Mansion in Oak Park. Also at Hollywood, Operation Gratitude. Hollywood students received a thank you letter from Operation Gratitude for their contributions, allowing care packages to be made for troops overseas. Carolyn Blashek, president of the Operation Gratitude, wrote, and I quote, "Thank you again for your thoughtfulness and wonderful patriotic spirit. Every single donation we receive furthers our mission by saying thank you to those who serve. The recipients of your generosity will remember your kindness forever, and I will always be appreciative of your support and encouragement for Operation Gratitude." And lastly, at Hauser, we had our 5th, 6th grade transition. The Hauser administrative team visited all of the 5th grade elementary classes to welcome them to Hauser and answer any student questions. Parents were then invited to 6th grade orientation on April 9th, where the Hauser administrative team welcomed 5th grade parents and informed them of the Hauser programs. The spring introduction of Hauser continued on the week of April 10th with the PTO-sponsored Hauser game nights for all 5th grade students, and concluded the week of April 13th, where Hauser Student Council having lunch with the 5th graders to welcome them and answer their questions. Salvation Army Food Drive. The Hauser PTO food drive kicked off on April 8th with a goal to collect 75,000 cans of food. The grade level that collects the most cans will be rewarded with a Hauser a Hauser Fun Night. Spring concerts. In April, Hauser will host several spring concerts. On April 15th, the Hauser Band will perform, followed by the orchestra on April 22nd, and conclude with a choir performance on April 29th. The PTO will be hosting the Hauser Ice Cream Social on April 16th to recognize Hauser Honor Roll students. And the Hauser Dance Company is underway, and this year nearly 25 students will be preparing for the performance on May 21st. That's all I have.
Ready, thank you, Bhavna. Next will be, presentation from the floor. Don, thank you. This is on the one-to-one pilot review and recommendations.
Thank you, Board of Education and Dr. Sherman Lewis. Going to present an update on the one-to-one device program evaluation, which we've been conducting some pilots over the last few months. When we looked at various devices, the devices we looked at, we obviously have had MacBooks in the district for in the one-to-one program for 6 years. And then looking at alternative devices, we looked at Chromebook, Chrome operating system, and the device we selected for the pilot was the Dell Chromebook 11. And then we also looked at the iPad device. We looked at a number of factors, one being cost. And this information was presented at prior meetings. A lot of this is review. There is some additional information in it. Based on this, there's some clear savings with the Chromebooks and some savings with the iPads as well. From a device replacement part standpoint, again, looking at replacement parts, considering hard drive screens, batteries, top cases, bottom cases, which are the most common repairs on a laptop format device. The Chromebook was, again, came in as, from a price standpoint and replacement parts, significantly lower. iPad, since it is a tablet format, a little bit different in terms of the types of repairs, screen replacement being the most common, but then other items that are listed below that really don't apply to the other devices. Another area that we looked at was just looking at what are the main digital resources that we use as a district within curriculum and data and assessment. In terms of PARC, NWA Math, Ames Web, 10 Marks is a math program that's used at the junior high. News ELA is a program that is also used currently at the junior high and is being considered for expansion at the elementary level. Alex is another program that's used at the junior high. My Math, which was added this year, and then Learning A to Z, which is a program that has been used for a few years at the elementary level. In terms of compatibility, there are some issues with the iPad, the iOS device, and that in terms of functionality in using these resources. So these resources would either lose functionality or have reduced functionality in the iOS platform. In terms of management and maintenance, we looked at it as an enterprise device from a security level, just overall management, ease of deployment, durability, and repair costs. When taking these factors into consideration, the Chrome device did come out, in our opinion, most favorable in that, with next being the iPad, and then the most difficult to manage being the MacBook platform. From a user experience standpoint, the MacBook device does provide the most amount of functionality. It is a fully functional device. Compatibility with the existing software and resources that we use is high, because we know that when we're selecting them, that they need to be compatible with the device. The newer devices all have are strong in terms of battery life. Mobility, the tablet device does have that greater level of mobility with it, as it's not a laptop form factor. In terms of weight, they're all significantly less in lower in weight than some of our older MacBook models, which I know there were some concerns from parents about the amount of weight that students are carrying in backpacks. The old MacBook models ranged from 4.5 to 5 pounds, and those are the devices that are currently being used at the 7th and 8th grade level. The new MacBook Airs are much lighter, as are the Chromebooks, and the iPads are significantly lighter. From a professional development standpoint, as far as the amount of professional development that staff would need in terms of changing resources or the type of device, the largest learning curve would be in with the iPad, with the Chrome operating system, also needing some, but not as much. So in factoring device cost, repair and replacement parts costs, core digital resources compatibility, device management and maintenance, and user experience, the district leadership team met, reviewed all the information, and we came to consensus on the choice, or the device being recommended would be the Chrome operating system, the Chromebook.
All righty, thank you. Any questions for Don? Thank you. Okay, next, our first action item of the evening. I'm asking for a motion that the Board of Education accept The minutes of the various minutes from previous meetings, the minutes of the regular business meeting of March 17, 2015, the minutes of the closed session meeting, March 17, 2015, the minutes of the special meeting, March 23, 2015, minutes of the closed session meeting, March 23, 2015, the minutes of the special meeting, March 31st, 2015, minutes of the Finance Committee meeting, April 8th, 2015, and the minutes of the special meeting, April 8th, 2015, and finally, the minutes of the closed session meeting, April 8th. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Juanita?
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mandia.
Aye.
And the motion passed.
Thank you. Next, Pamela, can you give us a report on our progress towards priorities and goals?
Sure. So for this month, looking at our goal area 1 to ensure innovative and challenging experiences to optimize teaching and learning for objective 1, staff have begun discussions on adaptations needed for teaching and learning based on observations during the previous administration of PARCC testing. So we're reviewing those actually weekly with our district leadership team and making plans for the end of the year assessment. Our non-core classes, so classes that aren't English language arts or math, are continuing to adjust their scope and sequences to support the Common Core in those core disciplines. Preparations, as I just mentioned, for PARCC end of the year assessments are starting to happen at our district leadership team, and then Don and his staff are making those technical adjustments with his staff. Summer school program is currently being revised to increase rigor and relevance in both the skill building and enrichment offerings, and you'll hear a little bit more about that later this evening from Mr. Preble. And the first things that we're going to be doing is incorporating robotics and code writing. Special education teachers are administering the dynamic learning map and looking to complete those at the end of the month. Objective 2, to prepare students to be college and career and community ready, an initial review of learning management systems for the purposes of identifying a system and looking at criteria and a rubric to assess potential systems of implementing for next year. We've also completed the pilot of the new middle school maths resources, and Mr. Draka and his committee will be presenting at next month's board meeting in May. Professional development sessions continue to focus on enhancing the Common Core aligned curriculum, including straight and vertical grade level articulation between and among the buildings. Objective 3, to hire and develop and retain highly quality professionals. Our professional development instructional team members conducted an after-school professional development for staff on the following topics. For technology, Web 2.0 tools to support 21st century communication, collaboration skills, and effective instructional practices using the SAMR model. Utilizing online classroom platforms such as Edmodo and Google Classrooms to extending the classroom beyond the four walls and support 21st century communication and collaboration skills. Also, the para-alignment team, Pat, is finalizing initial presentation for staff regarding a para-aligned professional growth plan to be implemented for next year. They're looking to present that later in May. And also, we're looking to integrate Lewis University's writing program and a writing instruction and professional development opportunity into the summer school course offerings this summer. Goal Area 2, to maintain fiscally responsible and efficient processes for long-term district success. For Objective 1, the principals and administrators have completed the budget development proposals, and Mr. Sellers is working on that in the next few months and presenting a final copy later this summer. Objective 2, Leggett, our board's architect and associates have been authorized to develop plans for specification on bidding the major playground and parking lot repaving at Central and Hauser schools. The advertisement for bids have been published in the local newspaper, and the pre-bid meeting with prospective contractors is set for April 27th, and bids are to be opened on May 7th. Also continuing for Objective 2, Mr. Stefano and his staff completed the final phase of all remaining high-priority network remediations, canceled Comcast internet services, and decommissioned all associated firewall and hardware services, completed and compiled data from the one-to-one device deployments that you just heard about earlier today, And we've made our recommendation for the Chromebooks. And we've also identified, they've also identified additional state funding to help support in programming for STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math programs. Objective 3, an internal controls document has been developed and reviewed, and changes in account numbers have been made to ensure compliance with the Illinois Program Accounting Manual. Interviews with prospective auditing firms have been verified, and we're going to be making our recommendation tonight for a new auditing firm for our board. Continued research and development and drafting of the following policies for Board of Education in the areas of technology, acceptable use policy for staff and students, and also a data privacy policy. Objective 4, re-inventory of building contents has been completed, and the process of providing specific documentation on categories of equipment owned by the district is in progress. So for example, musical instruments by year and the year that they were purchased. The actuarial study of other post-employment benefits is on schedule for completion to be used in the 14-15 independent audit. And lastly, to communicate in a purposeful manner to all stakeholders, further vertical level transition discussions will take place between special education teachers on April 27th during the professional development time. And as a result of the relationships that we've developed during our professional development sessions, grade level teams from across districts now collaborate on a consistent basis outside of school, outside of their Monday times for professional development. And Mrs. Shaw and early childhood teacher Mrs. Rinkelman will participate in the preschool and kindergarten fair hosted by the Riverside Public Library on April 27th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike and Art, your last school board committee reports. Can you tell us where we are with the finance committee, Michael?
Sure. In our finance committee meeting, we got an update from the architects about the Central and Hauser repaving project. Various options were outlined and zones were provided, and an estimate of cost from the architects, and it's been put out to bid. Am I correct that paving organizations have a timeline now to submit their bids, and so that'll be before the next board soon. We did receive a one-to-one program update. We also received the Casarda study that we commissioned Dr. John Casarda to do in projected demographic and enrollment projections, and those that report was presented to us, as well as a preliminary 2015-2016 budget, as well as the 3 auditing firms that we were to interview were selected. We did select them, and one will be before the board tonight for hopefully final approving, as well as staffing options and employment requisitions were also presented.
Alrighty. And Art.
The education committee hasn't met, which is fine because our work is done, right? Everything's good? We couldn't go
Hardly.
home? Oh, sorry.
Hardly.
I'm sorry. No. So again, it's been a pleasure to be able to try to move the education agenda forward with so many important, jobs and programs and park testing and professional development and curriculum and programs. It's been quite an amazing process. So again, thanks everyone for your input, the board, the administration, and staff. Thanks again.
Thank you both very much. Pavna, can you tell us about the policy committee? I know it's a cause for celebration.
Yes, because we are up to date, and there are no updates for policies pending. And should I go into the technology steering committee?
Yes.
Well, you mentioned a couple of policies in the update, the goals and updates. So is there any timeline on those, or?
We're hoping to have all of the policies and procedures reviewed by the administrators by May 1st, and then present them to IASB for their review.
Acceptable use and
Acceptable use, and then what was the other one? The student data. And we're going to have the attorneys review those as well.
Okay.
The Technology Steering Committee, you heard a little bit tonight, our recommendation for the one-to-one device pilots, and Mr. Tofano presented that as well to the committee. They also reviewed the next steps regarding the recommendation for the server infrastructure migration project from Mac operating system server to a Windows environment. The next steps will be to finalize the scope of work for the purposes of obtaining quotes for some turnkey implementation, hardware, software, and services. And they also discussed student data security policies and procedures that we just mentioned, and then reviewed the progress on student data privacy policy development and identified development of these policies and procedures as high priority and next area of focus for the committee.
Alrighty. Don, when is the next steering committee meeting? Has it been scheduled?
It hasn't, we didn't have one scheduled for May, but we're looking at early May.
Early what?
Early May.
Okay.
The date hasn't been scheduled.
Alrighty, thank you. Bill here. Hi, Bill, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Bill House is going to speak on behalf of the Riverside Education Council.
On behalf of the RC, I'd like to take a minute to thank Mrs. Boyd, Mr. O'Brien, and Mr. Perry for all of the hard work that you've all put in to help make our district for the best it can be for our kids, but also for our staff and for the entire community. We look forward to seeing you around and working with you in other capacities as well, as parents and in other ways. So thank you so much for your time and effort. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. I guess we're ready for some financial action items. I guess we'll get started with those. The first is item to approve a resolution. This is a resolution authorizing reduction of certain fund levies for the 2014 levy year. By way of an explanation, this is a routine action on the part of the board. That we pass a levy, gets submitted to the county, and then the county adjusts, usually downward, well, always downward, if necessary, to put us in compliance with the PTEL law. And in this case, we are authorizing, if that adjustment needs to be done, that the adjustment take place 100% from the liability and tort fund. With that explanation, I'm going to ask for a motion that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing reduction of certain fund levies for the 2014 levy year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
Randy Brockway. Arthur Perry.
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mandia.
Aye.
And the motion is passed.
All right, next, sorry. The next is for the approval of the District 96 Independent Auditor. I ask for a motion that the Board of Education approve Eder, Castella and Company as the independent auditor for District 96 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
Randy Brockway. Rich Regan.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mandia.
Aye.
Motion passed.
All right, next is the approval of the general invoices Schedule A756. I ask for a motion that the Board of Education approve the list of general invoices Schedule A756 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Randy Brockway. And Mary Rose Mandia.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Next is an action item for school lunch and milk fee increase, and no increase is recommended. So I ask that the Board of I ask for a motion that the Board of Education approve the proposal to not increase the cost of school lunch and milk fees for the 2015-2016 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rachel Morella. Aye. Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Arthur Perry. Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Randy Brockway. And Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
The motion is passed.
Thank you. Next action item would be the amended 2014-15 official school calendar. This is the current year, and we're amending it to address emergency days. Is that correct?
Right. We took an emergency day earlier this year in January, so we need to make up that one day, and so we're extending the school day instead of Thursday, June 4th to Friday, June 5th.
All right, I ask for a motion that the Board of Education approve the amended 2014-15 official school calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
Randy Brockway. Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
The motion is passed.
Next is the approval of the 2015-2016 official school calendar. May I have a motion that the Board of Education approve approve officially the 2015 official District 96 school calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Next is this one-to-one student to devices for 5th and 6th grades for the 2015-2016 school year. I ask for motion that the Board of Education approve the one-to-one student devices as recommended for the 5th and 6th grades for the 2015-2016 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Juliette Boyd.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Next is before and after school care change in vendors. The first motion I will present is to retain the PAV YMCA as the vendor of choice for Riverside District 96. May I have a motion that the Board of Education approve the PAV YMCA as the vendor of choice for the Riverside District 96 before and after care vendor as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Rich Regan.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Nay.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
No.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
And Juliette Boyd.
Nay.
And the motion is passed.
I mean, this was for retention of the Y. Okay.
I understand.
Okay, thank you. Next, this would be before and after school care submitted to the Board of Education is the motion to approve the Riverside Parks and Recreations after school program as the vendor of choice for the Riverside District before and after school vendor.
No need to do
We need to do
Right.
it if it passed
Yeah.
4-3.
What?
PAV,
Right.
PAV.
PAV, so we don't have to, all
Right.
right. All right, thank you, then we will be retaining the PAV. All right, thank you. Okay. All right, well, that's it. Next up is new business discussion items. Summer school update. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be real quick again. I'm just passing out to you a quick budget summary, proposed budget, and I'll talk you through it real quick. Basically, what I was asked to provide was a comparison of what we would normally pay our staff based on what our needs are for this summer so far, as well as a proposal for increasing the compensation package. So let me walk you through it real quick. That first page that you see there this is the lineup that we have for this summer. This is based on if we have full enrollment, which is what I was requested to do. If the skill building classes always go, we don't have a minimum. But if the enrichment class, if we don't book enough kiddos in there, that class won't happen. But this is based on full enrollment. This first page shows you total days staff will be working, their hourly rate. Currently we pay teachers $30 an hour, and we pay paraprofessionals, which are at the bottom, $18.24 an hour. That's what we've been doing for the past so many years, since before I was even here. The second page is going to show you is the exact same template. The only change is the increase in pay to $36 an hour, which is actually curriculum rate for teachers. I've also increased the para compensation from $18.24 an hour to $20 an hour, to make it a bit more attractive who only need paras to be in the program. The $30 an hour on the first page was based on curriculum pay, I believe, several years ago, and just has never been adjusted. And that's why the number has been stuck there. The last page you're going to see is what happens when we took what we paid last year, what this current year would look like under the current compensation plan, as well as the proposed compensation plan, but then we also put in TRS and other benefits that have to be rolled into the payroll, so you get a true sense of what we're paying. It's beyond the $30 or the $36 an hour. So if you want to just jump right to the last page and focus there for a second, what I want to point out is the difference between last year and the current year's lineup is significant, and that's because we're expanding the program. In the past program, we've needed about 5, maybe 6 teachers for skill building, and then enrichment was variable based on if classes had enough enrollment or not. The biggest difference is we're expanding the program this year so that we have single grade levels, which means that we're doubling the amount of classroom teachers for skill building purposes. That's going to be your biggest increase in compensation. So when you look at total salary expense in the bottom line, last year we spent $31,000. Our current model would put us this year at $42,290. And I believe, did anybody get on the front page that said my copy? I had notes on my computer. So what that breaks down to is we have a budget of $47,000, which I believe has been based on the old compensation package for the last several years. So when you take that budget and you weigh it against the total salary expense for our current model, for this year's program under our current price model, our current cost model, we're spending $42,290.44, which leaves us a surplus of $4,700, which is pretty good. If you increase the compensation to $36 an hour for classroom teachers, $20 an hour for paras, that brings us to $49,911.67, which puts us about $2,900 in the hole. But I did make a mistake on my budget, a good mistake that actually saves us almost $2,000. If you go back to either the first or second page, it doesn't matter, and you look at the very bottom, we have Super Scientist 1 and Super Scientist 2. We do have 2 different super scientist classes, however, that's the same teacher, but I counted them for the full 3.5 hours 2 times. So actually, one of those line items can be taken off. So $1,950 can be removed, which brings us down to a deficit of $961.67 under our current budget with the new program. So by expanding the program and increasing teacher pay, we are only over budget by $961. However, we're not over budget because we do have grants in the program that pay for some of our teachers, so we are actually under budget. So that is what I was asked to present to you tonight, as well as an update on where we are with staffing right now. There has been 0 official staffing yet, only interest, because we're waiting for May 1st registration to close and see where we're at. But just so you know, I need 19 classroom teachers. Paras won't be identified until enrollment is done, but I'm currently up to 15 interested staff. 3 of those are paras, so 12 are classroom teachers. So before we've even really talked about, compensation or anything like that, and it usually goes down to the last minute, especially with registration, we're looking very good for staffing purposes. Now, we want to use the staffing pool to put the proper teachers in the proper places so we have the most benefit. So it looks like we're on track for that. And then the only other thing I was asked to mention was the writing course that we're going to have. National Louis University has a writing program that we are going to bring in instructors to teach for 3 weeks. Summer school is 4 weeks. So what is that going to look like? Well, they have invited us to bring in a couple of staff members for professional development. They can get CPDUs, actually they're not called CPDUs anymore, but they can get professional development time, and they will be there for the first 3 weeks. That 4th week, when the program's instructors are gone, our teachers will take over for that 4th week to continue the course, and then they can bring that, what they've learned in the course and the projects they've done, and bring that back to the other staff and present that. So that's summer school. Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, Kurt, let me ask you a question. Last year, was our budget the $47,000 again?
Yes.
Yes, it was. So essentially, we were $16,000 below budget last year.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And very good. I thank you for your work here and support it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kurt. All right, next, the 2015-2016 start time for Hauser Junior High School. We'll be presenting that about that.
Well, we would just like to make the board aware of it and just get your direction. Several months ago, Mr. Draco came and presented to the Education Committee at the Education Committee meeting what his team, the scheduling committee, is doing to go for the block scheduling of 80 minutes of math as well as for ELA that we have this year. In order to do that, we needed direction from you to continue to move forward, and we've received that direction. And now Mr. Duraka and his team are at a point of, in order to finalize all the details for that schedule, they need to adjust the start time to 8:05 from 8:35. So we're just asking for your direction to do that. It does not impact the collective bargaining agreement because the teachers would still work their 7 hours and 10 minutes, and the student contact time would be 6 hours and 40 minutes, I believe. Is that what it is? Yes, the 10 minutes before. So we're just shifting everything 30 minutes earlier. So they would end, instead of at 3:13, they would end at 2:43 for next year.
Correct, whatever you adjust, yes.
Well, yeah, we would just adjust it. So the length of the school day would be the same, the student contact time would be the same, the teacher work day would be the same. We're just adjusting the start and end time to 8:05 in order for the block scheduling to happen. So we would just like your approval to do so. It doesn't require action. We just wanted to.
I have a question. How does that affect the Hollywood students that are coming, crossing First Avenue with respect to the start time of RB? So, do you have a big group of kids heading on the sidewalk east and then another group of high school kids heading on the sidewalk west at the same time?
I think predominantly many of your students are car riders and being dropped off. I don't don't know that you're going to see large crowds of kids coming.
I wouldn't actually just focus on the sidewalks, though. The streets are pretty crowded, too, at that time, especially in front of the high school and on First Avenue. So I do have a concern about that.
Well, but I'm concerned about the whole, so essentially what we're asking, it's the same time allotment, but we're just moving it back. I thought the original plan, why we moved the junior high up, was to avoid congestion out in front of Central and Hauser. And from what I'm concerned about is if we move everything back so it's equal, now you're gonna have as much congestion as possible, whether it's RB and also at the Central Hauser location too. That's just what I'm concerned
Actually,
about.
I think you may experience less congestion in the morning because at this point, Hauser students are coming into the building at 8:15 and Central students, if I remember correctly, are entering at 8:10. So with this scenario, if school starts at 8:05, the students would probably be coming in about 10 minutes prior to that. So you'd actually have about a 20-minute separation rather than a 10.
Then the after-school discussion that we talked about is right now, the elementary schools, so get out at 3, and then Hauser gets out at 3:13. So we have a large number of Central students, elementary students, walking or hanging out in front of Hauser waiting for their older siblings for 15 minutes. And this way it would be, and they're unsupervised, and we have seen, some kids, not necessarily seriously, but just hurt, fooling around, and they are unsupervised in that area. So, sometimes we'll let them in, but we thought as an administrative team it would be better for safety if the older kids are let out earlier and then they wait for their younger siblings at Central or be able to get home for their other younger siblings to get home from the other elementary schools.
That seems to make good sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can I ask just a question about the music ensembles? Will they be having rehearsals in the morning before school, or is that changing? I mean, I'm asking because, with the earlier start time, if there are ensemble rehearsals and practice, those get pushed earlier, and basically any before-school activities get pushed earlier.
Those are moved to day.
Okay.
They're going to be part
So
of the
that's
classroom day, so that's not going to be a situation where, I don't know if there's going to be anything going on before school anymore.
Well, I mean, there potentially could be if kids want to join an art club or join choir, if that's an option. Things like that may still be available.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
They currently start at 7 o'clock, so I don't imagine that they would be
The
starting.
unluckiest do, yes.
They wouldn't be starting any earlier. That wouldn't, the shift in schedule wouldn't push them to getting here at 6:30, let's just say that.
Okay.
Because also, they're splitting time in the morning, like you said, the unluckiest groups will be earlier. But with this scenario, like Mrs. Morello said, that the students are in band during that time.
Okay.
Or actually, during the school day, I apologize.
Okay. And I'm just curious that in order to start working on the actual block scheduling process, can you just give us a little preview or walkthrough how you see that process? I mean, given if we give the direction for this, what happens next?
Well, really, in order for me to begin developing a master schedule, I have to know what that schedule is going to look like. And so the current form of the schedule is not what it would look like with an 8:05 start time. So therefore, in order for me to start the process of determining how many sections of classes I need per period, I need to know how many periods I have, and then allocate from that, determining the number of sections that I have, the number of teachers that I would need. So all of it is sort of a domino effect in terms of making decisions for that program for the upcoming school year.
A big issue too, I think, right now with kind of being halted on the scheduling piece is moving the school day up for Hauser students allows our one lunchroom facility on this campus to be used most effectively with the most opportune times that we can provide for students.
And so until we know that, we can't design our classes until we know when our middle school kids are having lunch and when our elementary kids are having lunch.
So who's getting brunch? Is it the middle school or central?
Remember I said most opportunities.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was perfect, but
But additionally, I mean, that is an issue. I apologize, my allergies have been kicking my butt today, so the allergy meds have made me slightly foggy, so I apologize. But, you know, our cafeteria is only so large, and when we split the students in half, it's putting nearly 300 kids in a room that really should only be supporting about 230. And so life safety inspectors would definitely say to me, you need to split those up into 3. In doing that, it requires me to use the facility prior to noon to prepare for Mr. Gatz's children. And that is, in essence, what forces me to move my schedule to the left. Now, as I presented to the Educational Committee several months ago, I can fit what I need to do outside of any contractual issues into that time slot as we've had conversations about. So I don't want that to be a hang-up in the approval.
Okay.
If there's any concerns, Art, you mentioned something earlier, and Rich, about student traffic. I guess I'd like to understand that a little bit better, what your concern is, and if it's, is it a negative that we should really discuss here?
I just want to make sure we're giving fair consideration to the ages of the kids that are moving right across each other, right? So you've got 6th, 7th, 8th grade kids moving this way, maybe on the same sidewalk as high school kids going the other direction, right? In an unsupervised fashion. And as Art said, it's not just sidewalk traffic, it's vehicular traffic. So I sort of want to understand it in the context of the RB start time.
I see. So you're concerned about the kids meeting each other, going in the opposite direction on a sidewalk, and what?
It's something that I think we need to consider.
Okay, I didn't understand it that way.
Yeah.
Was that your concern, Art?
It is a concern of mine. So the overall just logistical traffic of this timing with the high school and, this campus is a concern. And then, I think, the mingling of those kids, and it happens now, but there have been issues I've heard of with the Hauser kids getting kind of,
picked on.
Yeah, well, getting picked on by the high school kids. So there's probably some other things we can look at doing to try to alleviate that. We can work with maybe the crossing guards or whatever. But all in all, I do think it's something, I'm glad we're talking about it. It's important. I think, if this schedule makes sense, if, we can work out these logistical issues or at least go into it with open eyes, I feel better about it, but for sure, there's some things we need to look at and keep our eye on, keep attention on.
Well, all right, so do we, as a board, agree with giving Bhavna direction to change the start time? Is there any, or do we want more information on anything?
I think we should move ahead. I think, in order to get if this is something that's a critical path to the block schedule, I think, again, as long as we keep an open eye and pay a lot of attention to that, don't lose sight of those, pieces, and I can get behind that.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, we're moving forward. Thank you. Next, Ames class sections facilities.
I have met with Mr. Gearman and his staff, as well as some representatives of PTA from Ames regarding the enrollment needs and the space needs and the facility needs at Ames. So for the next school year, for the 15-16 school year, Ames does have the need to be a 3-section school year with the 3 4th grades are going to be now 3 5th grades, and it will continue like that because we have 3 kindergarten sections. So at least for the next 6 years, there will be 3 sections at each grade level, kindergarten through 5th. That being said, we also have the numbers for next year of Ames being 3 kindergartens. So we need to do, and I know our architect was appointed earlier this school year, but didn't have the time to do a complete facilities and assessment, as well as the Casardo study coming in back to us in the early part of April. So those 2 needs of our facilities and our enrollment, it's, you know, my recommendation along with the Ames administration and staff and parent community, or the PTA, that we have a facilities review done of how we can address the facility needs for the 3 sections at Ames. But that being said, we need a temporary solution for the 3 sections that are coming into kindergarten. Because if we have 3 sections coming into kindergarten, that would take up the art room. That 3rd classroom would need the art room. So we kind of came up with some options, Mr. Gearman and I did, and I welcome you to comment if you want to add or change anything that I'm saying, Mr. Gearman, but we need to have a facilities assessment done, and I think all the recommendations that we're going to be making, or the 3 options that we're providing, that we need to have a facilities assessment done of Ames regardless of just this temporary solution. So the first option we came up with is keep kindergarten at Ames next year, keep that 3rd section at Ames, and then have art on a cart and music stays in the Ames multipurpose room. And the reason we can't have the art and music together is because of the noise level of music with art, and then also the tables and the furniture needs of art on those cafeteria tables. Those are the same tables that the kids eat on. So we just felt for hygiene purposes that wouldn't be ideal. Option B would be to displace the 3rd section of kindergarten to Blythe Park School, and then give them the opportunity to come back to Ames for the 16-17 school year. Again, but that's if a facilities needs assessment is done and there's additional space for that 3rd section. And then option C is displace those 3rd section of kindergarten to Blythe Park School, but provide a full day kindergarten class. And that would give us an opportunity to research and look at those kids' growth and assessment with that full-day program, and then ask them to come back in Ames in the 16-17 school year. We've thought that option C, providing that full-day kindergarten for those parents or the families that have those children that have to be displaced, that at least gives them an option of having a full day. And then we would do a lottery system rather than the kids that just registered after the last 20 that register, and displacing them there. So that's a little bit of what we wanted to just share with the board, have discussion about it tonight, and we're looking for action for the next board meeting. So we just wanted to present those to you.
Is there an extra classroom at Blythe School?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a good option.
That's option B.
Option B and C. So the option B and C is displacing those students at kindergarten, but providing just a half-day kindergarten program that we have throughout the district, and then we would do a lottery system, and then priority would be given for those students not to be displaced if they have a sibling at Ames, and then option C would provide that a full-day kindergarten, and then it would be an application and then lottery system if there was more than 20.
Isn't it true that presently we have students that would go to Ames attending Blythe and Central already? I mean, that's already occurring?
Yes.
Okay. And with your B and C scenario, it would just be greater number of displaced students?
We'd have to displace them for the room. We'd have to displace the whole class.
Could be just for a year, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't want to, if you have more questions, but what is the numbers for Ames kindergarten for the fall?
Right now we're at 43, Todd?
Yeah. We have enough to justify 3 sections going into the 2015 school year, and historical data has shown that there's a large population of families from North Riverside who will register in June, July.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, that's across the board.
Yeah, we're
That'll
right there.
happen.
We're right
It
there.
happens
Well,
at
yeah.
Hollywood, it happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm a big supporter of full-day kindergarten. I think it's something we should be doing, but you're suggesting that just these, Ames, group of Ames students would get into a lottery system to be eligible for that, which from an equity standpoint across the district, I find that a little bit difficult to, get behind. I'd love to see a full-day kindergarten available to all families across the district, and whether that's by lottery across the board or something like that, but I don't think that helps us in this enrollment situation here at Ames, so.
And we're trying to make it a win-win, so,
Right.
Some incentive for a family to move their child to Ames, for a family who maybe can't, or their siblings go there. So we were trying to make it, incentivize it.
I like the sound of that C, the incentivize through the offering the full day. What those parents would have to give up is they're having to transport their students further, correct?
Correct.
So there's a give and a take there.
I guess I feel the same way as Art, but for whatever that's worth.
I understand the hardship of any displaced family, but if it is 1 year for just kindergarten, I feel that, and I've been looking at this issue for a long time. I've been on the Flexible Boundary Committee, and we've been talking about it for just forever. We actually haven't been talking about it for the past, half a year or so. So I think we're going to have to, the board going forward is going to have to revisit this enrollment issue. And for kindergarten, I don't like to say that, this specific, school needs to send a third of its kindergartners to a different school, but it is for just the 1 year. So that's the thing. I don't know, it's a tough call, it is, but I'm coming down where, figuring out whether it's a lottery system, having some students moving for 1 year might be not as tough of a choice, but it's tough. It is tough, but it's a lesser of evils, I guess.
Where does the facilities review come into play with this? Are we?
You mean with the architect?
Yeah.
I think they're still in the process of that, and they want to look at the enrollment report too, but if that's, I would like them to start looking at Ames as a priority and say, how do we how do we create additional learning spaces at Ames for a 3-section environment?
If you don't mind me jumping in, ultimately what we'd be looking at, displacing for the 1 year, and then for the 16-17 school year, turning the Ames Gymnasium into a cafetorium, so taking out the 2 walls, putting the lunch tables in the walls, and sacrificing my multi-purpose room, which is currently my lunchroom, and make it into 2 21st century classrooms. And moving music, so we can't have music and art together, very noisy, and a little bit more movement there, so making like 2 classrooms, maybe it's 2 4th grade classrooms, whatever it may be. And then making Ames a 3-section school for years to come, and pretty much then you have no vacancy. You're not going to go beyond the 3 sections because I don't know, we're really landlocked. There's really no other area, I believe, to build outside there. So that's a proposal that was discussions I've had with Dr. Sharma Lewis and my parent community and my PTA. That's really ultimately what we'd like Ames to be for the future.
Unless the architect can come up with some other plan.
Sure, yeah, we're open to suggestions,
That's one
absolutely.
plan that we've come up with, but the architect might be able to
It's
come
like
up with
the dream
something else.
But that plan there's absolutely no way that could be implemented in some form for this fall.
There would be no way to try to eat lunch in the gymnasiums. If I tried to convert the multipurpose room into 2 classrooms and move 2 classroom teachers in there for noise level, and move my lunch into the gymnasium, I have nowhere to put the lunch tables. There's no space at all, other than putting them on the stage, and that's, that's a hazard for my custodial staff to try to, if we built a ramp to push lunch tables on the stage, those are very.
Yeah, I understand. The reason I just throw that out there is because, Hollywood's doing that. They've got a system. Obviously, they've been doing it for a while, so they've got it pretty much down to a science. I don't know if any other schools are doing that with the gymnasium.
Not the gym,
Yeah, the
no.
reason,
Blythe has
Mr.
it
Preble,
built in.
thank you for, I have 3 sections of lunch, so the way my students eat, I have first and second eat, let's say 11:30, 11:50, and then I have third and fourth eat from 11:50 to 12:10, and then, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5th grade, whichever my biggest class is, would have their own 20-minute lunch period. So I have to flow through 3 lunch periods in that 1-hour time frame, whereas Mr. Preble doesn't. How many lunch periods?
We just have the 2.
He's just running 2.
Okay.
And then, sharing staff with Blythe Park, Mr. Bartel, the PE teacher, looking at master scheduling, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Time for custodial staff to go in, clean the gymnasium, get those tables up, get them somewhere, and, there's really nowhere to put those tables. And the amount of kids that, we feed in that 20-minute period is roughly around, could be close to about 120 kids.
Yeah.
There's close to 360 kids in age right now.
Okay, all right, I'm just looking for
Oh, no, I'm just-
ideas. What the plan you described, that's a dream plan, I like it a lot. And I'll just say, historically speaking, we've been going, we've had this thing between Blythe and Ames where Blythe is a little big for a 1-section school, but too small for a 2-section school, and Ames has just always been maxed out for as long as anybody can remember. So, thank you for being creative about it, I guess.
Think outside the box. And Mike, one of my concerns, although I don't want to displace our families, and I'm looking forward to getting them back there next school year if the board decides to give us direction to make this a 3-section school, putting art on a cart for a school year is going to compromise the entire art program, the rich art program that we do have that Mrs. Claus has done. There's so many things she can't do. And like Superintendent Trevor Lewis just spoke of, the hazard of eating on tables with clay, or anything for that matter. Putting art on a cart is not going to, we have stairs, we don't have an elevator. How is Mrs. Claus going to get to the 2nd floor for art? We've now created a double budget for art. We have to have equal amount of supplies upstairs as downstairs. And believe it or not, I don't even have the storage for these art supplies. And then the kiln room is in a classroom, so it's really, that would be a tough sell, I believe.
I think the option of the full-day kindergarten would be a great opportunity for us to try it for 1 year, see what the benefits, the pros, the cons are, and then look at the spaces. And maybe we can offer 1 section at each school for the following school year if we don't have the space to do it at every single, for every single classroom, but maybe even 1 section for it.
I think that's a good plan too. I think the only reservation I have is that what happens if we need to use that second half of the day at Blythe for any overflow of enrollment. I'd hate to commit that classroom and then have a bunch more kindergartners come into the district and then we don't have space for them.
Well, right now we have kindergarten at Blythe is only half day. We have 1 section of kindergarten, correct, Ms. Gorman? 1 half day.
Oh, so that we could have that second that classroom for the afternoon.
Correct.
Great. Okay. Then I like that idea as well. Option C.
You like C?
I like C.
Yeah.
Well, are we making a decision
We'd like for you to
now?
vote on it for next time, because this is gonna affect staffing. So
Okay.
if you say option C, we'll put the exact same notes that I created for the memo and put it into an action item for the next, and then you can vote on option A, B, or C.
Okay. All right.
They're in
They're in
the
there.
superintendent memo. in the action
The extra section. All righty, thank you, Barbara. Next, I'd like to, State of the District. This is a transition item that I would like the board to give our administration some direction to aid the transition by asking them to provide a high-level summary of the current state of the area under their purview. And by them, I mean the superintendent, the director of curriculum, the finance director, the technology director, the special ed director, the facilities manager, and all the principals, asking to write a high-level summary of the current state of the district, of their area. And to include in that summary, again, to list ongoing initiatives as well as what they consider to be the top near-term and long-term priorities. So is this something the board would like to provide, to give direction to Bob and the administration to provide us in May? Any thoughts on that?
I like the idea. I think it's always good to be evaluating what you've done, what you want to do in the future, and then putting it down on paper.
And then to providing, again, to aid in the transition for a new curriculum director and an interim superintendent.
Yeah, sure.
So is that something we can all agree on?
As long as it's after May 6th, I don't see.
Okay. Thanks for your help, Bob. All right then, Bob, this is, all right, thank you very much.
That'd be 16 pages, single space.
Yeah, we'll judge it.
Non-point font, please.
What's that?
Non-point font, I couldn't get it
Oh.
out. Yeah.
You got that, Mr. Skolnick? I'm having a drink today.
Right.
Next, a discussion of the 2015-2016 staffing plan. I don't know, what's the best way to approach it? We've had some questions come in from both the staff and the public. I guess some of the questions have gone specifically for special ed.
Oh, yeah, we only received that one, for the one position is what we've received the questions on. I know at the previous meeting, or the previous board meeting, the board had asked us to look at a comparison of temporary staff, outsourced staff compared to permanent district staff. So that's provided for you in your board packet. And if anybody has any questions about that, we can just go down the list. We went from technology to certified classroom, and then we have, we can look at special ed in the way that it was presented. So any questions about the technology positions? I know the comparisons have been provided for you, as well as the job descriptions.
I did have a question. I know Don, where did he
He's
go?
right back here.
Don had mentioned at the last meeting, there was some discussion of, it's not really going to be, we're replacing the two people that we were using at Robert Half, and so it's really not a net increase in cost because, we're kind of canceling out those two people but then bringing in the other two people. But you made a statement during your last presentation that the cost of the Robert Half people were coming out of your technology budget, which is something you hadn't anticipated at that time. So are you assuming with the new hires, I'm assuming they're not coming out of the technology budget, they're coming out of a general staffing cost. So are you anticipating reducing your technology budget if you say there's not going to be a net increase? Because I just looked at that and I was like, well, it does seem that there would be a net increase then if you were planning to keep or looking at keeping the technology budget the same.
Yeah, in terms of on the purchase services side, it would be a significant decrease relative to those kind of those day-to-day staffing costs for the two technicians. Instead of it coming out of a budget account, which is, again, we need to use for any contracted services, it would be part of the, they come out of the budgets where appropriate for that, for those staff members.
Okay,
So I didn't follow that. Does that decrease your budget down, or does that increase?
It would decrease it in that area, yes.
Purchase services would be less.
Right, well, and purchase services, we look at the expenditures out of purchase services this year, what was budgeted versus what was spent. Much more was spent than what was originally allocated because those costs were not anticipated to come out of that account.
So
We still have purchase services that we'll have from year to year, although we have begun also looking at what we have been traditionally looking, or been using purchase services for, and also shifting those into different accounts where they're more appropriate. One of the costs out of that particular account that has continued to increase is a software as a service. It's technically a purchase service, but it's like an online service. So we've begun identifying that through working with David Sellers, that those costs should really be coming out of more of a software account as opposed to a purchase services.
So Don, you've been here like a year. It's been a long year, hasn't it?
The longest ever. It's been a challenging year. It really has. I mean, there are a lot of technological challenges that we faced, and it's been quite a year.
I guess where I was going with this was when you have consultants or contract employees come in, have you seen turnover within that year that you might not get if you had employees?
That is, well, we've had turnover in those areas just as we've tried to better, evaluating what their skill sets are through the course of their actual work production. Needs have shifted over that period as well, but yes, we would hope for stability and a level of retention of those positions, whereas it has been more of a transitional environment. And as we stabilize technologically, and as we start, as we shift platforms, whether they be at the desktop level, but also at the server level, the back-end infrastructure level, I would also help to have some stability in those positions as well in order to support it.
And Don, as well, these are anticipated as being techs, people who can work on all these devices, the bazillion devices you have, right? So we're not anticipating these being teaching people or certified staff, so we're not anticipating increasing our TRS.
No, not at all. These would be technicians that, and even given what their current skill set is, we would probably continue to develop them. For instance, to get some certifications on new devices that we have. We just approved the Chromebook, so we'd want to make sure that they are authorized through whomever we use as a vendor, whether it be Dell or HP or whomever. They offer training free of cost just to be able to service their devices on site. We can also send out. It's just there's benefits to being able to do some of those repairs on site as we do at the time.
But to answer your question, no, they're 12-month classified employees.
Correct, it would be 12, yeah.
And when you would invest in their training, you would hope that you would get some longevity from those.
Correct.
Yes.
Who would be providing the training, or how would the training be provided?
For that particular type of training, it would be provided probably through our reseller.
Okay. Okay.
We didn't receive any questions on the certified staff for the classrooms. Unless there are any, we'd be happy to answer them. But then the other questions we got, and I'll invite Mrs. Shaw to speak to those regarding, we changed the title from the autism behavior specialist to the inclusion behavior specialist, and the job description is in your packet as well.
Yeah.
All right, Pam, you have prepared a presentation?
Well, I'm prepared to answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions that you have.
All right, yes. Here are some of.
Go ahead.
Again, I have had some questions from the community that I would like to just go right down the list if you don't mind. I guess you made reference to consistent observational support that the new position, and I think that would be the autism, well, the behavior inclusion specialist, may offer throughout the district. This is a significant need within the schools as evidenced by the number of families who request classroom observations of their students by independent professionals. Is this not a role that is also available through the caseworker staffed in each school? Does our relationship with Lansing not provide these services? And how will this change to benefit the individual student if this how will this change benefit the individual student if this new role is implemented?
Okay, there are several points that you mentioned there.
Should I go over them again?
Yeah, let's break them up into each one, I'll stop and answer.
All right. Is this a role that is also available through caseworkers staffed in each schools?
Caseworker is not a term that we use. Caseworker is a DCFS person typically. We have case managers for each student, and each student's case manager is our special education teacher. So there's not a specific caseworker in a school. Special education teachers definitely do take on part of that role, but what we're looking for is someone to support the teachers and the other related service and general education teachers when they come to a point where they need additional support in order to help problem solve to make a student successful in the classroom. And then I believe you asked about the LADSI component.
I did.
LADSI is very much a part of consultative services. We do use them and they are responsive. The difficulty can be at times when we're scheduling within a building schedule, we're scheduling with their service providers who are also being used in other districts. Sometimes the timeliness of making something happen quickly can be difficult, and then rescheduling to me can be a bit of a timeout. If we were to have a specialist within the district that could provide that support, the consistency piece means that if there are strategies that we would like to have implemented, that we would like to help support the teachers, related service providers, and the paraprofessionals, they can work side by side, those individuals, for several days in a row, aiding their support to help them with some of the strategies that will be needed for students to be successful.
Right, and how does this change benefit the individual student if the new role is implemented?
I think it benefits students by the fact that our responsiveness to help the staff in the buildings to provide student support can be more timely. And we can be quicker in response to provide those strategies.
How does, the next question, will this additional development fit into the overall plan and goals in this area?
In general, I think it helps us to provide a more inclusive environment for our students. It provides us the opportunity to have the on-hand professional development, plus we would also be looking at other professional development. Professional development is something that we're required to do for our paraprofessionals and our staff ongoing. And in order to continue to prepare people with ongoing strategies and ways to support our students, I think it's necessary.
What is the expected time frame that the community should anticipate for staff-wide training to be completed to a baseline before becoming a continuing education goal?
Well, as I just stated, as far as our role as a district, it's something that needs to be ongoing all the time. We always have, in many districts, and I'm sure this one's not going to be any different, that there tends to be a turnover of paraprofessionals. So you're always going to have that initial training that needs to take place for staff, and continuing education to support community needs. And we are required to have those institute days and professional development.
Okay, and then the next question, would it be better to hire a behavioral specialist to meet the needs of the entire population of students and faculty rather than an autism specialist? What are the pros and cons? And did you change the title of the?
The thing is,
Originally, I said autism/behavior consultant, as those are the areas that often we need the most support in. And I know another, which is making me think of another comment that was made at the beginning, that there is quite a request for private providers to come in to support. I wouldn't say it's an unusual amount, as the requests now come from our building through our district office and the special education office. I've had 4 requests this year for private providers to come out and observe, and 3 of those requests have been by the same private provider, so it's not an unusual amount. The other support that we receive, again, has been through LADSI. But again, back to the question, it was in regards to what was
Well, just the overall role of this new position as a behavioral specialist versus an
why
autism.
I think we want someone who's well-versed in both understanding behavior and autism. Behavior is often what gets in the way of children performing instruction to the best of their potential, and we want someone who is well-versed in those areas. We've changed the title to be a little bit more fitting of inclusion specialist, but to be honest, inclusion specialist or facilitator was a term that districts used 20 plus years ago. It's a bit outdated, and they tend to be then more specific to the specific areas that they need support in as a district. But my original goal in this, in looking for this person, the specialist to support, would be really looking at how we can support students with autism, with behavior, and it can be internal or external. It doesn't necessarily have to be outward behavior. How we can help support students with a learning environment, providing them with visual supports, instructional strategies to the teams in order to make the students as independent as possible, but with providing them support.
Right, and so your goal with this position is to be somewhat broader than just autism.
Yes, right,
Okay.
definitely.
But with a good solid knowledge of autism as well.
I think it's important for the person that we would want in this role to have a very strong understanding of how to help teams with functional assessments of behavior, with writing behavior support plans, with teaching strategies. I think it really needs to be someone who has had experience in those areas.
Right. Another question, would hiring an inclusion facilitator, with the primary difference being the focus on serving all students in their classrooms with their peers and making the classroom a hospitable place for all students to learn, be an even better solution than hiring a behavioral specialist?
Well, I think those are areas that, as special education teams, we need to work on that as a whole.
Okay.
All staff members need to address that, general education as well as special education staff, and I think we're moving towards that goal. And hopefully, looking at that area, not just in the instructional learning environment, but some of the extracurricular things that we would like to put in place for those inclusive opportunities to help, such as Best Buddies and Special Olympics with peers.
And about how, what's the timeframes if you're moving in that direction? And
For
this sort of an inclusion facilitator, focus serving on all students in their classroom with their peers?
Well, that's something that, that does not, unfortunately, it's not one of those things that happens overnight, but I think we're making strides in working, having special education teachers and general education teachers working together. As was mentioned earlier in the public comment, all students are members of general education. Special education just supports general education. So I think to continue with that philosophy is going to be critical for us to move forward.
And am I hearing you that, the question here was, would hiring an inclusion facilitator, be worthwhile? And I think what I'm hearing from you is that role can be assumed by
general education and special education. And years ago, when inclusion facilitators started taking on that role, you had there was differentiation between the role of a resource special education and inclusion facilitator. And as the role has evolved through these years, all special education teachers should be part of that inclusion facilitator, but there's an equal part for general education teachers. I think that's the part that we need to continue to provide professional development and growth into all stakeholders working with our students.
Okay. And then finally, in your view, in your view, are there districts in our area which have done a better job with inclusion than D96, whose methods and approach we should study further?
There are some past districts where I've come from that were some of the forerunners further to the west who embraced inclusion. It was not an overnight thing years ago too. Again, some of the ways that they were able to do that was by having that specific district specialist that was able to go in and help within the buildings and the classrooms.
Any other comments or comments on Pam's staffing recommendations?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question about the music, if I could.
Oh, okay, sure.
I feel like, I know we've discussed this, changes with the Hauser music program and other programs at Hauser. So these two positions are they're two half positions for elementary, like 5th grade. Who am I talking to? I don't even know where to look.
Either one of us, yeah.
Maybe I'll look at Mr. House. You teach music in 5th grade, I hear. So, because both the band and orchestra teachers at Hauser not only will have to manage the program during the school day, that program, the enrollment is growing, is what I understand as well.
Go ahead.
Band and orchestra is extremely strong.
Yeah.
Hundreds of kids join these programs, as you may see during our performances here over the next
Yeah, nice job, by the way.
I'm a fantastic triangle
Yes.
player.
Amazing.
But so the staffing issue really is that because they are no longer providing those services outside of the school day for the 7th and 8th graders in the morning, they would have actual sections during the school day, disallowing them to move into the elementary schools. That's the need for them.
Okay, so these half positions, however it plays out, if it's one person or two people, right, will do all the 5th grade instrumental music then?
Correct.
Okay, for all schools?
For the elementary schools.
For all the primary schools?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And the ideal plan is for them for it to be 2 halftime positions, 1 band, 1 orchestra. It's ideal because that'll have the smallest impact on instructional time for kids, because then they can both be in the same building at the same time, pulling out of the general music classroom together instead of at a different time in the school day.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So, could I ask a question about the math staffing for next year?
Sure.
At Hauser? So the 4 positions would fill the needs of the increase in math minutes in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade? Is that right?
I mean, essentially speaking, if I'm adding another 40 minutes of math, that's 24 sections of math, which would equal 4 staff members.
Yes. Have you looked at, or is it feasible to add less than 40 minutes of math? And if you could say yes or no, but I'm just wondering, what your thoughts are, or what your thinking process was on that.
As the master scheduling committee came together, we kind of looked across the board at what was recommended, and mathematics minutes range anywhere from, say, 72 to 90. And then we began to look at some of the programs that were out there and how they address those minutes, considering our current block of time and the numbers of minutes teachers teach currently. As we moved forward, I took into consideration the current contract and applied those pieces to the number of minutes. I felt that 80 minutes was strong. It's a strong block. Other schools, such as Oak Lawn Hometown, are using the same 80-minute format that we are. I think that in order to make it a shorter period of time, what you're really going to do is add another variable within the schedule that may have to offset that 40-minute block. So therefore, let's say you have mathematics that are 60 minutes. What do I do with that other 20 minutes throughout the other 600 sections throughout the day? In which case you might employ a study hall or so on and so forth. But even with that, it still requires a staff member to supervise. So you're removing 20 minutes of math to get 20 minutes of study hall for a supervisor or teacher. I've seen that format done as well. In District 54, they use that. I think that with our approach, having a strong ELA block, having a very strong math block, and a complementary comprehensive program with social studies, science, and Encore, I think we have a very viable master schedule that meets the needs of our kids academically, and then also with some of those support or ancillary programs in Encore. So I would recommend my recommendation.
So, you stated at the beginning it was 72 to 90 minutes. Is that a range that exists out there?
Yeah, if you look at some state models, like for example, some of the research I did was in Tennessee, the Board of Education, this Tennessee Board of Education recommends 72 minutes of math. I don't think there's any magic number, because if there were, then we'd employ it across the country. So there's variations, and we make adjustments based on what works for our current program. And again, when developing this schedule, I had to take into consideration all of the current contractual issues and then be able to morph that schedule according to anything that may or may not work in the future.
All right, Steve, I have one question that I think you had recommended that one of the stipend chair positions in the middle school would be a special education chair.
Right.
Right, and I guess one of the questions that I got from the community is why is that needed in light of inclusion? Why can't that be handled by the specific, the other department chairs? If my question makes any sense at all.
Well, I don't think that a math department chair or science department chair has the requisite skills to be a special ed department chair. Somebody who has the skills and background in special ed is going to understand all of the IEP demands, all of the meeting formats, which include all of the domain meetings, all of the reevaluation meetings. And so every special ed child requires annual reviews. Those meetings have to be organized, set up, planned. In addition, there has to be from those meetings appropriate recommendations that are made. And a special ed department chair with those skills would recognize the appropriate accommodations that are necessary. A science, math, social studies department chair would not have those skills when approaching that work.
And who does this work now?
Well, that's
of the special ed chair, setting up the meetings and making the recommendations. Who does that?
yeah, a lot of that goes through me, Stacy Weston, and Diane Waldenjack.
And what is Diane Waldenjack?
Diane Waldenjack is our school psychologist.
Okay.
If anything, I think, if I may add, that the department chairs will probably promote more inclusion and more consistency within the departments, as well as the organization in general, because you're going to have those 5 key people working together in leadership roles, coordinating the program and making sure that they're consistent, and that communication will then filter through each of their core subject areas as well as their departments. So I think that'll promote the inclusion piece, just to answer your question specifically.
Yeah.
All right. There any other questions? Okay. Now I'm going to move into our action items, starting with the personnel report. And I am going to ask for a motion on the following, for approval of the following items on our personnel report. We have 2 staff members requesting FMLA leave, 2 certified staff members, appointment of certified staff of Samantha Dahlgren and J.B. Friedman. We have a couple of resignations as well, Lynn Janik and Peter Murphy, and also the resignation of Susan Moorhead from the district office. May I have a motion that the Board of Education approve the personnel report that I've just read for April 21st?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Juliette Boyd?
Aye.
Randy Brockway?
Aye.
Rachel Morella?
Aye.
Michael O'Brien?
Aye.
Arthur Perry?
Aye.
Rich Regan?
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mandia.
Aye.
And the motion is passed.
All right. Next, I'm going to, one by one, ask for a vote on each of the for administrator contracts. The first, I would like a motion that the board approve the 2015-2016 certified principals contract for Blythe Park School as presented in the packet. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Rich Regan?
Aye.
Arthur Perry?
Aye.
Michael O'Brien?
Aye.
Rachel Morella?
Aye.
Randy Brockway?
Aye.
And Juliette Boyd?
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mandia.
Aye.
Motion is passed.
The next is, I'd like a motion that the board approve the 2015-2016 certified principals contract for Central School as presented in the board packet.
So moved.
Second.
Juliette Boyd?
Aye.
Rachel Morella?
Aye.
Michael O'Brien?
Aye.
Arthur Perry?
Aye.
Rich Regan?
Aye.
Randy Brockway?
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Motion passed.
I would also like a motion that the board approve the 2015-2016 certified principals contract for AF Ames School as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Rachel Morella?
Aye.
Michael O'Brien?
Aye.
Randy Brockway?
Aye.
Juliette Boyd?
Aye.
Arthur Perry?
Aye.
Rich Regan?
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Motion is passed.
What school is that? All right, thank you. I would like a motion that the board approve the 2015-2016 certified principals contract for Hauser Junior High School as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Randy Brockway?
Aye.
Rachel Morella?
Aye.
Rich Regan?
Aye.
Arthur Perry?
Aye.
Michael O'Brien?
Aye.
Juliette Boyd?
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Motion is passed.
I would like a motion that the board approve the 2015-2016 certified assistant principals contract for Hauser Junior High School as presented. So this would be for the assistant principal.
So moved.
Second.
Arthur Perry?
Aye.
Rich Regan?
Aye.
Rachel Morella?
Aye.
Randy Brockway?
Aye.
Juliette Boyd?
Aye.
Michael O'Brien?
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
And the motion is passed.
Next, I would like a motion that the board approve the 2015-2016 certified principals contract for Hollywood School as presented in the board packet.
So moved.
Second.
Excuse me. Rachel Morella?
Aye.
Arthur Perry?
Aye.
Rich Regan?
Aye.
Randy Brockway?
Aye.
Juliette Boyd?
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
And Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
And the motion is passed.
Next, I would like a motion that the board approve the 2015-2016 Certified Director of Special Education and Student Services contract as presented.
So moved?
Second.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Juliet Boyd.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
And Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Motion passed.
I would like a motion that the board approve the 2015-2016 Certified Director of Innovation and Instructional Technology as presented.
So moved?
Second.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Juliet Boyd.
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
And the motion is passed.
I'd like a motion that the Board of Education approve the 2015-2016 Administrators Agreement for the Interim Director of Finance and Operations as presented.
So moved?
Second.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Yes.
Juliet Boyd.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Motion passed.
And next, I would like a motion that the Board of Education approve the 2015-2016 staffing plan, including every position, including the district-wide behavior specialist position is presented.
So moved?
Second.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Nay.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Juliet Boyd.
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Not
point out the door yet.
I know, right?
Sorry. Motion passed.
All right. With that, I would just like to announce the next meeting date, which would be May 5th, the biennial reorganization meeting, right here in the Hauser Learning Resource Center, 7 p.m. So, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Juliet Boyd.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rich Regan.
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Motion passed.